love running.
So, today what we're going to talk about is foot strike. There's a lot of talk about foot strike, and probably almost too much talk about foot strike in terms of what part of the foot hits the ground. A lot less important than where it hits the ground relative to your body and how it hits the ground I guess I started early. That's the signal to start. A little off timing here. Where it hits the ground and how it hits the ground relative to the speed of the ground. We like to hit the ground at the speed and pick it up off the ground, and that's where barefooting and doing your barefoot drills is uniquely able to give you a sense of that speed and relative speed to the ground, whether you're braking or pushing off. The difference between, you know, like a Vibram 5-finger and barefooting, I think is equivalent difference between like a regular traditional shunting shoe and a 5-finger in terms of this, especially this kind of speed relative to the ground. You don't last very long if you're stopping and starting and frictioning on the ground. That's where blisters come from, is from friction. What we want to do is we want to have that foot strike relative to our body, more underneath our ground, just where our foundational drills are. When we do our soft tops and our switchies, that's kind of where we want our feet to be landing on the ground. Okay, so who here feels like they run with a forefoot strike, or don't know? Yes, maybe. Okay. Who here feels like they run with like more of a heel strike? Anybody know? Okay. Who here feels like they run somewhere in the middle? Kind of yeah, right. So more of a lot of times people call it clinically they'll call it kind of a midfoot strike, but once again, I've been running this way for 5 years and I haven't been able to figure out how to land on my midfoot yet. So I'll call it a full foot strike. And once again, exactly which part of your flesh contacts the ground first is less important than where it happens, okay? So let's take a look at some people moving, but we're going to do it with our foundational drills. So somebody's going to come out here and do some soft tops. All right, good. So you're going to do some soft tops, and everybody's going to kind of watch.
Can you refresh my memory?
Yeah, of course you will. So what she's going to do is, and then we're all going to watch, and then we're all going to join her, right? What we're trying to do with our soft tops is try to land quietly. We're going to land. We're going to stay in place. Running posture is upright, but nice and soft through the knees. And then we're just going to bounce up and down, yielding through the knees and the ankles, without really leaving the ground, and the heels come to the ground and not through the ground. All right? So everybody just watch for a second. That looked beautiful, okay? They're all works in progress, right? It's never an end point, it's just getting there, good. The heel should come to the ground, but not through the ground, and it's landing right underneath her body. So if you guys have been doing any of your soft top drills, where we're absorbing as our foot's hitting the ground, you've already been working on the sequencing for foot strike this entire time, ever since week 3 of this program, is we are going to kind of land. Oftentimes you might be forefoot first, but you're not really taking load until your full foot is down and your whole lower extremity spring can absorb it. So now you're going to show us switchies, okay, our other drill, which we're going to be same upright running posture, soft through the knees, tall through here. Our foot is right next to our opposite knee, foot hanging down. You're going to come down and peel that foot off the ground. Good. And Karen, why don't you describe what her foot strike is looking like?
Well, it looks like there's a really soft contact at the ball of her foot, but then her whole foot is on the ground pretty quickly.
Yeah, so she said soft contact onto the ball of her foot, then her whole foot is down pretty quickly. And where is it relative to her body, let's just say?
Directly underneath.
Right.
Like her heel is really right underneath her body.
Right, exactly. So you can't, when we run, in actuality, we can't run without our feet being in front of us. every step we've ever taken with running, except for when we're accelerating dramatically. Our feet are going to be a little bit in front of us, and there's going to be a little bit of a braking phase and a little bit of a push-off phase, but this is where we're aiming for. This feeling of this underneath our ground is what we can tune into to access this form, okay? So we're going to have a few people do some running across the way here, back and forth, and we'll take a look at what it looks like. Let's join the drill together, soft tops. So here, ankles loose, opening up. Knees spring, minimum jump as possible. Feel what that foot contact is like. The heel should come to the ground and not through the ground. Be as loose of a spring as you can still have bounce. Yielding to the ground, good, all right? Feel that foot come, how it feels on the ground. Now let's try switchies, same thing. Good. Feel how that foot that's coming down, what does it do? Something hard, good. All right, now everybody come over here, and we're going to run back and forth 2 or 3 times, and we'll pick out a few people to video and look at what their mechanics look like. Everybody should be soft through the knees and ankles, and just pick your feet up and down and kind of start running and just go back and forth 2 or 3 times. All right, stop. Now we're going to make some adjustments. Here at Minimalist Mondays, there's not one way to run. The best way is to run for you on any given day, and you should be able to know how to make the adjustments, okay? So here's what we're going to do. With our soft knees, we're going to make our knees just a ½ inch softer, okay? This might be too soft. You'll know. Test it, so just soften them just a ½ inch more when you're running and see how it feels, all right? Let's try that just down to the other side. So now let's come like an inch taller, okay? So our knees quite a bit straighter, okay? And let's give that a try. So keep your knees a bit straighter, be taller. Straighten your knees out a little bit more. So there's no right or wrong answer, but how much you tune your soft knees and how much you tune your releasing your foot from the ground is how you kind of tune in that running so you feel good while you're doing it. Let's try putting our switchies into action and just work on where you pull your foot off of the ground, okay? So while you're doing your running, we'll let that foot drag on the ground a little bit longer, and don't pull that switchy until it's back behind you a bit, so it looks more like this. So let it drift maybe 2 inches further back than underneath you before you kind of pull the string on the switchy, okay? So it's just soft, it's just releasing the foot from the ground. We're not kicking anything, we're just lifting that foot up, but just let it drag on the ground a little bit longer before you kind of pull the string on the switchy. Go ahead and give that a try, good. Let it drift behind you a little bit, good. And then let's pull the string early. So as soon as that foot almost hits the ground, already start to release it from the ground, okay? I mean, I want to see levitating here, okay? So as the foot's starting to come down, already pull that string and try to release that foot from the ground again. So try that one. Good. So what you probably can experience is that's how you can change your cadence, is how quickly you release it from the ground. And there's too fast and too slow for any given person at any given time. So you just play with that variable of when you kind of release it, okay? We're going to do something one time that those of you who don't have shoes on, you just do what, but I want you to kind of work on running just up on your toes. So no heel strap, we're just going to kind of run tippy toe. You're not going to sustain this for very long generally, but just get kind of way up on your toes. You see a lot of prancy running, sometimes people down here, I see them for 1 or 2 weeks and then I never see them again, okay? But still a little prancy running, I call it, way up on your toes. Kind of feels nice and light, but give that a feel. So just same thing, do your switchies, nice up and tie, good. Now we're going to do the opposite. This is one of the kind of paradoxes of running, is that by using passive stretch that we've been practicing with our soft tops, we can actually run with relaxed calves without whacking our heels on the ground. Got that? Without hitting your heels on the ground, I mean hitting them into the ground. They'll set on the ground like we talked about, but you can also keep your calves relaxed. You don't have to have tight calves when you're running. Okay? So that's what we're going to try to do. Do a few soft tops, just kind of with your knees. Just feel that little stretch. And now let's try to run, letting those, instead of being prancy running, letting yourself just kind of be carried by that little hammock at the bottom there to run across the ground. It's a little more subtle. Just give it a try, and this is the things that you can play with when you're running. So let's go ahead and run across. Keep your calves a little more relaxed as you come across. Let yourself settle into the ground. So, anybody have anything jumping out at them at all? Like this doesn't feel like running. I just feel like I'm kind of doing this little thing across the. Anything?
Prancing hurts.
Prancing. Yeah, prancing's not so good. Right, and so it's good if somebody has knee or hip arthritis or something, they can really offload those joints, but they're not going to usually be able to sustain that for very long. Okay. So trying to get into that full foot contact, and if you're running barefooted, who's ever stepped on a rock? Who's been doing barefoot walking and stepped on a rock or anything like that? A pebble, anything uncomfortable, right? And so if your leg is straight when that happens, that force is going right into your foot and there's nothing you can do about it. If you're soft and your foot is on the ground, and let's say it lands underneath the ball of my foot, here I can adjust, you know, because my foot is on the ground. It's ready to kind of reassess anywhere. So you get a nice foot mobilization when that happens. So having that greater surface area of contact allows you to distribute force over more range. Okay, go ahead. All right, so we'll look at Martin here. Just some key points that I kind of oftentimes look at, knowing that this is he just ran just like it's not a mid-run, mid-stride sort of situation. Like he's all warmed up. We're just going to kind of look at him as he comes through here. This is a good little shot here. So looking at foot contact, like I said, the foot contact, exactly where it contacts, I think is less important than where it is relative to his body. So we'll look at the two. If we look at it, he lands basically just a little bit forefoot and then accepts weight onto his full foot. At this weight acceptance portion, where his foot flattens out right there, we do what's called the belly button test. Highly official name. Drawing a vertical line down, let me do that again, from his belly button. And if I draw a line straight down, I'd like to see basically the entire heel behind that line. So as he has weight acceptance, somewhere between those two frames, we'd like to see the entire heel behind that line of where that load is relative to his belly button when you're right on the side. Now, you can't do this while you're running, right? So this objective kind of feedback can be helpful. You can watch yourself run, you can kind of work on it, but you have to be able to feel these things and get a sense of, what do I change? Gait is too complicated to think about everything all the time. So using the soft knees, which we do with our soft hops, and kind of leafing the feet or releasing the foot from the ground, which we do with our switchies, are good ways to tune into these macro complicated things that are happening. So with Martin, in terms of his foot contact, he's kind of land forefoot very quickly followed by full foot, which is kind of a classic sort of barefoot running gait, and can be very efficient because he's not having a lot of what we call vertical displacement, which we worked on last week. If we look at from the bottom of his stride here, if I drew a line on the top of his head, and then to the top of his stride, there.
That's mostly hair.
Yeah, so if we factor in a hair factor, how much vertical bounce do you think you guys have from here? Yeah, we can do a nose factor.
It's probably about 2 inches, 3 inches.
So kind of put it right on his nose here. Kind of. That's not exactly a straight line though.
It's even with the pavement though.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a couple inches, not much, right? Okay, so the location is really nice.
Is my heel landing further back than it should?
No.
Okay.
So we should have a full foot behind there, like your full heel, and you have almost your full heel behind there. So it looks really nice. I mean, from the outside, and hopefully it feels nice from the inside, because that's the end-all goal. If you look at Martin, let's just, I don't know what it's going to be. I'm curious, see what his knee angle is as his foot hits the ground. So if we look at this knee angle from the upper thigh, we'd like to see that this angle in here or here be about 20 to 25, okay, degrees of flexion. That's the soft knee position for landing, where you can adjust and absorb. Yeah, so it's right in that ballpark. It's right. I mean, it's around 20, right? Yeah, it's not over 30. It's probably around 20, and that's a lot of the studies that show what kind of habitually barefooted runners or people who've trained a lot that direction, where their foot strike lands. It's usually right around that 20 to 25 ballpark. So that looks great. Martin's been practicing, and it's agreeing with him. And these aren't, like I said, everybody is going to come in here a little bit differently, right? There's not what's right for him. These are general rules, but what it feels on the inside is king, and how your body's reacting to it is king. This is very official in numbers-wise and angles or whatever, but you don't carry this with you. Every step you take is going to be different. Appreciate it, adjust it, feel like, okay, I can be on my forefoot and be on the pinky side of my forefoot. I'm getting hot blisters on the outside of my pinky. So my body's telling me that that contact is not maybe where it should be optimally, because that's what's showing up. So anyhow, that's it for kind of foot strike stuff. It's where our drills have put it, kind of underneath us, maybe forefoot, but down to the full foot where our weight support is, in a stable, balanced position. So you've already been doing it, so nothing new here.
I love running. I love running. I love running. I love running.